David, good morning. It's Tuesday morning, 16th of February. Welcome to our first podcast in the series that CloudTrade are going to launch, where we're talking about industry topics that are dear to our heart in CloudTrade. So really appreciate your time this morning. And one of the items on the agenda I wanted to kick off this podcast with was talking about the automation agenda. This is something we hear an awful lot from our customers, certainly from the C-suite of executives, where they're looking at what they can do to digitize or automate certain business processes. You've been involved in the industry for accounts payable and accounts receivable, and specifically around capture and business rules for a long time, and have worked with many organizations. Just really interested, David, to get your view on what you believe executives want to receive from their automation agenda in the context of looking at business document processing.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, Steve. This actually, I mean, I might even rephrase it and say, why automate? And I like to have that level of discussion with senior people in organizations. And I think we all have our own understanding or feel of why we should automate. But there are typically three very prosaic reasons why people want to automate. In the sphere which CloudTrade operates. They may have an existing manual process that's just broken. Perhaps it doesn't work properly. It's forever causing trouble. It may be that they're trying to do activities which are just too complex to do reliably, manually at scale. Another reason could be that their business themselves is growing and they're finding that they're unable to scale their existing manual processes, or certainly that scaling the manual processes is holding back the growth of their business. And the third reason people talk to us about automation, and very topically, is continuity of business, particularly, as we all know, through lockdown and working at home. Having manual processes embedded in physical locations is a passport to cause all sorts of continuity of business issues.
Very interesting, David. And yeah, I agree that we've all heard a lot of challenges that companies have had with regard to the pandemic. Physical mailrooms being closed, they've outsourced to different in historically very capable providers, and they've suddenly found that the staff haven't been at home, they can't physically pick up the mail. So moving to that digital agenda, I totally agree with you. And that begs the question, the ability to automate business processes such as receiving an invoice or a customer order. There's been technology around for many, many years. I started with this back in the late 1990s, using OCR and other technologies. Question is, why are those technologies today not rising to the challenge? Why do companies need to change?
Yeah, well, I think there is clearly a bit of spin and misinformation in all this. Historically, the systems you refer to, Steve, have not really tried to automate end-to-end. They've focused principally on improving the odd manual step in a full business process, often leaving other significant and perhaps even difficult steps left for manual intervention. Automation is not really about putting a bit of automation, removing a bit of manual intervention in one aspect of a process, but leaving problems downstream. It's about taking out all of the manual processes, and that's where CloudTrade is now leading the world.
So interesting. So it's not just about capturing that inbound document. It's about understanding, you've used the word rules a few times. Just talk to me a bit about the importance of, I suppose, understanding what is this document content and context, and importantly, where's it going to go? Where's the data I've got from this document going to go? And do I have specific business rules? Have old technologies let the side down in that area?
Oh, absolutely, Steve. That is absolutely the point, that delivering a point solution which improves the manual processing of one part of the business process does not give you automation. You have to understand the data requirement of the receiving systems and what they're going to do with the data, so that the data can be prepared, validated, even augmented with additional data, so it's ready for that full touchless automation.
Fantastic, David. Thank you. Last quick question, really. Thinking about you personally, and when I was first introduced to CloudTrade, one thing that I got really excited about, and I know in the company that we're incredibly passionate about this, we've developed a technology, a platform, and a methodology that's very different to everybody else in the market. Just talk for a couple of minutes, if you would, about what drove you to set up a new business 10 years ago, and what the differentiator in your view is around CloudTrade compared to all of the other technologies that operate in this space.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve, for this. Go a bit of reminiscing about 10 years ago. Right, I think I do remember. I was working in accounts payable automation and just frustrated with the IT industry, peddling solutions that I over the time just felt they were peddling solutions that were convenient for them rather than actually meeting my needs as a customer. It goes back to that old story that you give the IT guys a difficult problem and their most immediate reaction is just to cut the scope. This is why, the classic scan OCR solutions, they're not built for this automation, the automation agenda, as we've called it. They do half the solution and then leave it for the poor old customer on the receiving end to finish the job. And I just thought that just wasn't good enough. I just thought we could do much better. And that's why we established CloudTrade. And hopefully people will have a look at the website. And I think we explain how we've taken that leap forward.
Absolutely. David, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. As I say, this is the first in a series of weekly podcasts that CloudTrade is going to be launching. So thank you for being the first attendee. I hope the listeners have enjoyed what we've had to talk about this morning. And I'll again speak to you in the coming weeks. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Steve.